Hello and welcome to the channel. If you haven't been here before, please do make the effort to like, subscribe, share, do all the fun stuff that every YouTuber asks you to do, and we're going to ask you to do the same. So yeah, comment below your thoughts, share with your friends and your family, whoever, even if it really upsets you, which it does seem to really upset some people. So yeah, get involved, like, subscribe, come along, join us. So today, yes, we're going to discuss AI. But we came across a story which really did took us back a little bit. Not much particularly shocks me, but this is a bit of a bizarre one. So we've come across probably the most sophisticated AI band or AI artist that I've seen to date, probably. Now, this isn't anything new. There's been AI music kind of popping up for a number of years now. And there's been the odd kind of success story, but generally speaking, it's been fairly limited in what can be kind of achieved to a certain level, right? It's been stuff that's quite obviously AI in a lot of cases, or it's not really penetrated kind of really big kind of streaming numbers or whatever, right? But I was just reading Music Ally, who I should credit for this, Stuart Dredge, who is amazing, just did a piece about the Velvet Sundown, who are, as far as we can tell, an AI generated band, right? I just want to talk about some of the sort of logistics of this, what it means, does it matter, should we be scared, should we care? Are the robots coming to get you? So let's just have a little look through this and see how much of a problem this is and kind of see if we can pick this apart a little bit. So here they are on Spotify. They all look very kind of 70s. Their artwork looks a little bit like Tame Impala. But let's have a quick listen.
Oh, hand, don't look away. Sing out loud, make them pay.
Okay, so you get the idea. Sounds pretty good. It's fairly kind of old school sort of rock sort of vibe. Fairly decent, but considering how far ahead AI is these days, that could absolutely be AI generated, without a doubt. So taking a look, they have 384,000 monthly listeners. Let's take a little bit more of a look into this. They've even got a release countdown. That's amazing. So looking at their bio, again, what is probably an AI generated photo. The Velvet Underground don't just play music. That is a very strong giveaway that this is AI. AI loves writing that phrase. The Velvet Underground don't just do this, or this song isn't just a song. They love that, right? They've even got a fake Billboard quote. I quite like that because that tells you how much press quotes actually mean these days. You can just make them up. No social media links. And no nothing outside of Spotify, really. 2 photos and a load of music, right? So that's the first giveaway. I love how their bio actually has real names as well. That's great. So I think there's probably enough evidence on there to suggest, can't know for certain, but to strongly suggest that these are an AI generated band, right? Again, nothing new in that. That's nothing new. But the interesting thing is the level of success that they've had. 350,000 monthly listeners, that's no joke, right? That's enough to start generating money, right? Significant money, actually. So let's try and dig into how has this been achieved and see if we can kind of figure out the origins of this, right? So to give you a bit of background, I run a marketing agency and I run a record label, right? And I have actually experimented with this. I've tried doing something similar to this before, just as a kind of test case study to see how possible it is to do, right? Because anyone could make this music and put it on Spotify. That's not the difficult thing. That can be done in an afternoon. The difficult thing is generating streams, listeners, and an audience, right? Whether you're an AI band or whether you're a real band, the difficult thing is not having the music on streaming platforms. That's easy. The difficult thing is gaming Spotify's algorithm to serve it to new people, not having the playlist creators to get it out there, and having the promotional savviness to make it work, right? That's the skill. So how have they done it? So the first thing that you can look at here is if you go to their Spotify page, actually, you might have to do this on laptop. Okay, so I'll put a screenshot into the video, right? But this is important. If you go down to their Discovered On section, this is all of the playlists that have featured this artist, right? And if you have a look, they're all slightly weird. Vietnam War music, the Twilight soundtrack, the Vampire Diaries soundtrack, lots of sort of third-party playlists, throwback 80s playlists. And a lot of them are by 1 or 2 different curators, right? So that means they're getting added to lots of playlists by a small pool of people. So this will probably give you some indicator as to where this is coming from, how this is being done. I had a look through some of the playlist curators, and there's a company called Lost Records who are on there, who have added this song to quite a few of their playlists. So that would be a fairly decent guess of where this is coming from and how this is happening, right? Crucially and importantly, they're not on any Spotify editorial playlists. So Spotify hasn't added them to like any of their own playlists. Obviously, they will be getting support from Spotify's algorithm, but Spotify themselves, Spotify's editorial teams, have not, as far as I can tell, added them to any of their playlists. So that tells me that Spotify is able to detect that is not a real band, right? Which is a good sign, I think. So in order for this to be done, right, let's say that you would like to try this, you need to have a good knowledge of, firstly, how advertising works. How do you get people to stream this song on Spotify when it's not a real band, right? Because when I tried doing this, that was the thing that I found particularly difficult. I could get songs on playlists really, really easily, but getting genuine fans to engage with the song from Meta or Instagram or TikTok or wherever, it was nearly impossible because they're not real. And you also need to have a really good network of playlist creators who can add the song, and that you can pretty much guarantee that they'll be able to add the song for you. If you have both of those things, then it's entirely possible. It takes work, but it's possible. So the question is, how much of a problem is this? Instinctively, if you're watching this, you're probably a musician or maybe a record label or someone who works in the music industry. And I can understand that this would feel quite threatening, right? Scary. There's some band who sounds a little bit Tame Impala-ish, but not really. But they're also, you look like they're from the 60s. It's weird, right? And you kind of have this idea that, oh, well, everyone will be able to just do this. They'll take our share in the market because people with no musical skill or no talent are going to be able to just harvest these AI musicians and put them on Spotify and make loads of money, right? It's not as simple as that for two reasons. Firstly, as I just said, it requires a very specific skill set to be able to generate and drive streams on Spotify, particularly for an artist that has no social media presence. They can't, they're not real. So you need to be a team who has an extensive playlist network and money to spend on ads. And there aren't that many people out there who are able to do that en masse, right? Secondly, looking through the playlists that these guys have been featured on, most of them, to be honest. Secondly, you're probably concerned that these artists are going to be taking your potential spot on a playlist that you want to be on, right? Or taking the spot of another real artist who could be featured on good playlists, right? And then not a real artist is on there, okay? I'm not sure that's going to happen because I look through this and I see that the kind of playlists that they've been featured on, they're not playlists that you're desperate to be on. It's all random playlists that are probably made by like agencies or record labels or like curated by just random people. Like the playlists that they're on are not playlists that you're desperate to get a spot on. If you start seeing these artists being featured on, I don't know, Lost in the Woods, New Music Friday or Serotonin or All New Rock or whatever, one of Spotify's flagship playlists or Apple Music, whatever, that's when I think you should start being a bit concerned, because then that tells you that Spotify can't tell the difference or is not willing to be bothered to tell the difference, right? I think once you start seeing these artists being featured indiscriminately with real artists, then that's when we start to have a bit more of a problem here. Because at the moment, they're taking up a space within Spotify's ecosystem that isn't limited, that there isn't finite amount of spaces on Spotify's algorithm or within these random third-party playlists. Anyone can kind of do that, and there's infinite amounts of them. Whereas there's not infinite spots on All New Dance or Mint or Serotonin or whatever playlist that you want to think of, right? Once AI artists start getting featured there, then it's slightly more of a problem, I think. So these guys are probably the most sophisticated artists that I've seen on Spotify who has developed this fan base. But at the moment, what the record label or whoever it is that owns this artist or owns the rights to this music, at the moment what they're kind of doing is they're gaming Spotify's algorithm, but they're not actually kind of taking spots that you would want at this point. They're clearly utilizing an intense and very strong understanding of algorithms, advertising, and playlists. But that doesn't directly affect you at this point, right? So, not to worry so much.